Mr. AJ Wilcox. He comes to talk about LinkedIn advertising for lead generations. So are you looking for more leads for LinkedIn, or if you want to reach more business owners and decision makers, then LinkedIn advertising may be highly cost effective method for you to consider. So you can reach well-defined high specific groups on users on LinkedIn. Target users by job title, experience, industry, and more. If you are able to define your target audience, then you may be able to reach them advertising on LinkedIn. So like to speak more about NHTIC in regarding the LinkedIn advertising for lead generation, we can call upon Mr. AJ Wilcox, LinkedIn ads expert, agency founder and speaker, to talk on LinkedIn advertising for lead generation. So he's a LinkedIn ads pro who founded b2linkedin.com, a LinkedIn ad specific advertising agency in 2014. These newly minted LinkedIn official partners manage among the world's most sophisticated accounts worldwide. He is the ginger and triathlete. He speaks with, train, present and manage advertising campaigns for executives and teams around the world. So with no further delay, we call upon Mr. AJ Wilcox for starting up the presentation.
Hi everyone. All right, what I want to start with is basically talking about the reasons why you might want to start considering LinkedIn if you're using other channels. One of the big issues that we find is that when you're using search channels like Google AdWords or SEO or Bing ads, at some point you're going to reach the very end of your traffic ability because you just run out of search volume. And so if you're running for a client and they're already ranked position 1 and you're already maxing out a budget for paid search ads, and the client says, we want to double our spend, well, those channels probably can't support that just because there aren't that many people who are typing those words physically. The other one is Facebook ads. Facebook ads are wonderful, and I would never put them down. But some of the things we hear about Facebook are that, number one, the sales teams will tell you that the quality of them is low. And it's not that the quality of the people who are on Facebook is low. It's just that Facebook is very limited in the way that it can reach these people because it knows so little about them professionally. So there's a quality issue. And then the other one is that we have a few limited characteristics of how we can target someone from a B2B perspective, a business perspective on Facebook. And so because of that, once we've hit the limits of that scale, we've hit the entire audience, we don't have another way to expand. And so if you're having issues with really needing scale and trying to get better lead quality, then LinkedIn is probably a great channel for you to consider. Just a little bit about me, and thanks for the intro. I've been doing digital marketing for about the last 12 years. I started out as an SEO guy. I really liked SEO, learned about Google AdWords, and then here about 6 or 7 years ago, I just fell in love with LinkedIn ads because I had a lot of success with them early on. And so I went and started this agency that LinkedIn ads is all we do. I live in the state of Utah in the United States with my wife and 4 kids. And I love cars, so if anyone wants to talk about Ferraris and Aston Martins, I'm your guy. Okay. Next, there's some great things about LinkedIn ads, and there are some not great things. So we'll cover the great things, the reasons why you might want to use it. So number one, has by far the best business targeting of any platform available. It's amazing because we can target by things like your job title, your level of seniority in the organization, what industry you're in, your company size. You can really make your target audience so specific that any lead that comes from that group is one that your sales team will just cheer for. So it's fantastic that way. LinkedIn ads are really up to date. And the reason why is because we as users tend to keep our profiles really up to date. I like to say that LinkedIn is the first person to know after I've told my wife when I make a career move. And it's because I'm very proud of who I am professionally, as I'm sure all of you are too. So when you accept a new position or when you start a new company, you want to go and tell LinkedIn about it so people can see what you're up to. And because of that, advertisers, when they actually go to show you ads, they're not wasting impressions on someone who hasn't updated their job title in 6 months, and they're no longer eligible, or they would never want to buy your product now because they're not a good fit, but the platform thinks they are. That just doesn't happen on LinkedIn. It's pretty much every impression matters. Number 3 here is your business mentality. When users are on LinkedIn, they are either thinking about their job or their career, which is amazing for conversion rates. So if you can give them an offer that augments one of those two things, chances are you're going to have really high conversion rates. You've got them while they're thinking about what matters. And then finally, LinkedIn closes the largest deal sizes of any platform out there. Without fail, we've managed hundreds of accounts and spent over $100 million and had our clients report and share data on what channels they're using and how. And what we find is that Google AdWords always closes deals the fastest. So if a sales team needs sales to happen tomorrow, search channels are great because people are initiating a search, they're looking for it. But if you're looking for deals that are exactly the right people and they close for a high amount, they're very high quality, but they're not going to close tomorrow, LinkedIn is probably a great place to go. So I've shared some great things about LinkedIn, but of course, LinkedIn ads is not all sunshine and rainbows. There are some serious cons to it here as well. Number 1, it's expensive. Here in the US, we generally see a $6 to $9 cost per click, which is many times more expensive than the equivalent Facebook traffic. We also don't have device-level bidding. If you can imagine how important it would be if you have, let's say, landing pages that you're asking for a lot of information. Well, someone from their mobile device is not going to fill in 6 or 7 fields. It's annoying and they won't do it. But on a desktop, they will. So wouldn't it be great if we could send mobile traffic to one experience and desktop traffic to another? But alas, we can't. LinkedIn hasn't created that. Number 3, this is a business-to-business platform, and we don't have the ability to do day parting or ad scheduling, which you can imagine being really important if you're doing something like you want to show your ads only during business hours, so when someone converts, the sales team can immediately follow up with them. You just can't do that, which is really unfortunate. There are some third-party tools that allow you to do scheduling, but basically, and sorry, we're showing you some updates here. Number 4 here, no visible relevancy score. So LinkedIn has a relevancy score that is very similar to Google's Google Ads quality score or Facebook's relevance score, and the problem is we just don't see it. I know when I get a really good relevancy score on my ads when I can keep lowering my bid and still spend my full budget. And I know when I have a bad relevancy score when I launch my ads and they just stop getting impressions, even though I haven't paused them. But anywhere in between, you don't really know where you stand. I would love it for LinkedIn to become more transparent there, but you just have to do a lot of experimenting. And then finally, one of my favorite parts about Facebook ads is their lookalike audiences, their ability to build lookalikes from lists and from existing audiences. We don't have that, at least yet, on LinkedIn, and that's extremely powerful. Okay, so because LinkedIn ads have these challenges, we want to find out who's a fit, because the last thing I want is for you who are listening here to go out and say, oh, AJ said LinkedIn ads are amazing, I'm going to go and spend thousands of dollars and then go and crash and burn and fail because you didn't know. So what I want to do is, if you're not a great fit for LinkedIn, I want you to know now, and I'll share with you who tends to do well and who doesn't. So number 1, if you're in business to business, you're doing lead gen, and it's high value. That's really important. When I say high value, I mean when you close a deal, it's going to be worth $15,000 or more to your bottom line, then great, LinkedIn works every single time. If you're much less than that, just because you're going to be paying $6 to $9 per click to get people into your funnel, usually we found that clients don't have that great of a return on their investment. So it might be worth making sure that you're only using it for the stuff that's really valuable, the big partnerships, the big deals, the enterprise level types of leads. Okay, number 2, white collar recruiting. So let's say you're trying to recruit a new marketing manager. How about you target the job title of marketing manager in your area and show ads that say something like, hey, you look qualified, we want to talk to you, would you be interested in speaking to us about a position? And of course, everyone is interested in finding out what they're worth and who wants them. So you're going to have a great return on that investment by getting a lot of resumes, a lot of applicants really inexpensively. And then finally, higher education tends to work really well too. When I say higher education, this is like Masters of Business Administration programs or PhD doctorate programs. Because you can target education so well on LinkedIn and you just can't anywhere else, it's a great platform for that. Okay, so we have 3 different ad units that you have available to you right now. So if you go onto LinkedIn and you open a brand new account, you're going to have 3 options when you go to create a new campaign. I'm going to share with you kind of the quick pros and cons here. So number 1, there are text ads. This is the original ad unit that LinkedIn came out with in 2007. It's over to the right rail of your screen when you're on a desktop computer, not when you're on mobile for sure. Sometimes there's a 300 by 250 banner ad there, and sometimes it's this text ad, and so it's just depending on what inventory LinkedIn wants to use. But these text ads, it's a little 3-pack that you can see it from my screen. I'll kind of circle here. You see 3 little text ads with a tiny little 50 by 50 pixel image. Most people don't realize that they've seen these ads, and this shows in their click-through rate. You can see the average click-through rate here it's actually around a 0.025% click-through rate. So if you have a 0.03% or higher, you're doing great. And to put that into perspective for you, that's 3 people clicking out of every 10,000 times that this is viewed. So very, very low engagement rates, which means if you're targeting a very small audience, it'll probably be hard to spend money. These are really nice because you know that they're desktop only, and they tend to be the least expensive of all the ads. So if you really are cost conscious, maybe start out with text ads. I recommend these to about 15% of advertisers, so definitely not everyone, but they can be valuable. Next, this is sponsored content. This is the ad that shows up right in your news feed. Your news feed is your home page on desktop, or it's the beginning of the app when you open it on mobile. So a lot of people see these, and they're right front and center, and they're interesting. And because of that, you can see that this click-through rate is so much better than text ads. We get a 0.4% click-through rate. Basically anything over a 0.35 is good. And that's over 10 times better than our previous ad unit we showed. But it's not uncommon for our clients to be getting 0.8, 0.9, 1.2%. So it's not too difficult to outperform the average here. You get a much larger image. You can see it's 1200 by 627, which is pretty much the same size as Facebook. So if you're already advertising on Facebook, it's really easy to just use the same creative. And be aware that about 80% of your users are going to come from mobile, so make sure that your mobile landing experience is good. Okay. Next, we have sponsored email. Oh, by the way, I'll say on sponsored content, this is what I call LinkedIn's Halo ad unit, because I recommend it the very most. So I would say probably 95% of advertisers, I recommend this ad unit for them to start. Okay, sponsored email. This is a little bit different than the previous 2 that I've shown you. The previous 2 that I showed you, they cost on either cost per click or cost per impression basis, which is great. If you do cost per click, and that's what I would recommend everyone start with, you're only paying when someone's taking an action, which is great. It puts you in a really strong position. It basically mitigates all of your risk. But for sponsored email, you pay per send. And what that means is it goes to their LinkedIn email box, but there's no guarantee that they're going to open, let alone read it, let alone click on it, or convert. So even though the cost per send is pretty low, it's a 35 to 85 cents, you do the math and you figure out you're going to have a 50% open rate, and then we'll call it a 12% click-through rate. You could easily end up into the $12 to $20 cost per click. But of course, you've had the opportunity to deliver quite a significant message to them. It's like an email. So usually the lead quality on these are higher, so it may be worth it for you. But because of that, I tend to recommend this to about 5% of advertisers. It's really, really important that you have a special offer here, because this is going to show up right in their inbox. it feels like email. So if the offer isn't very special, like a recruiting offer or stroking their ego because of who you are in the industry, we want to give you early access or a sneak peek to something, the sponsored email tends to be pretty tough just because it's expensive. Okay, there is a somewhat new kind of addition to LinkedIn Ads stable here, and it's lead gen forms. You can attach lead gen forms directly to either a sponsored content ad or sponsored email. And what these are is that when someone interacts with the ad, there will be a drawer that pops down where a form appears. And when the form appears, when someone fills it out, it's first name, last name, email, phone number. When someone fills that out, that information goes directly to LinkedIn, and then it's your job to get it out of LinkedIn into your own CRM system, which can be a little bit difficult. But what's so cool about this is you are bypassing the landing page experience. So if you have a hard time with your landing page experience, maybe it's not good for mobile, maybe it doesn't have a great conversion rate, try skipping it entirely using these lead gen formats. Be aware that the integration on the back end to get that data out of LinkedIn is a little bit tricky. By default, it's going to go into a CSV file. So basically you go in and download an Excel file once per day and start reaching out to those leads. That, of course, is really ineffective at reaching out to people when they're already thinking about it, because it's potentially 24 hours later. So because of that, they have some integrations to make it easy. You can see here on the slide, Eloqua, Marketo, LiveRamp, and Salesforce are all partners. So if you happen to be using one of these systems, then great. You can send your data right into your CRM system, and it's fairly simple. For those of us who don't have any of these enterprise tools, then the next best option is something called Zapier.com. And for those of you who are not familiar with Zapier, it's kind of like a paid version of If This Then That, where you can set up a recipe. That recipe costs about $20 per month to, I think it is $20 per month, to hook up to LinkedIn, and then you can choose what to do with that information. So whether that's populate a Google spreadsheet for your sales team to watch all day and then just start reaching out, maybe it's pass it into MailChimp or send it as an email to us. You have those options. So these lead gen formats, in general, you're going to see a higher conversion rate because you're keeping the experience all right there. You're not sending it to a landing page. But because of that, because they're not ever hitting your landing page, you do have two challenges. Number one, since that traffic doesn't hit your landing page, you can't retarget that traffic. And that's a big value on LinkedIn, I think, is leveraging the retargeting. And number two, because the traffic isn't hitting your landing page, if you're doing tracking with like UTM parameters, where each of your ads has a specific tracking link, that traffic's not hitting your landing page, so you don't get that sort of tracking, which is unfortunate. But it can be worthwhile if your conversion rates are, say, 20 to 30% higher. If you're using these, then maybe you're willing to put up with that. Okay, and then just recently, probably 2 months ago, LinkedIn came out with video ads. It might have been more like 3 months, but video ads are extremely powerful, as many of you I'm sure already know, on both YouTube and Facebook. It's actually one of the cheapest Twitter ads we've ever run was video. So it's fantastic that way. So of course LinkedIn follows suit. They want to come in with their own product. It's a pretty good product. It works very much the same way, but as it is with all LinkedIn products, it's pretty expensive. On Facebook, we generally see 1 to 2 cents per video view, which is someone sticking around for at least 3 seconds. On LinkedIn, it's 6 to 14 cents per 3-second view. We've seen some go as high as 20 cents or 26 cents, and they don't go much lower than 6 cents. Usually about 6 cents is the floor there. They do play muted, so basically so people don't get embarrassed if they're watching a video in the office and all their coworkers start hearing music blaring from the next cubicle over. They play muted, and what that means, and of course this is the majority of your views are going to come from mobile. So what you'll want to do is hard code subtitles in. You can see on this example from Chase for Business, you can see they hard coded their subtitles there, which is awesome because if someone doesn't have sound available to them, or they don't want to turn it up, or they'd be embarrassed to turn it up, they can still follow along with your ad and get all the benefit out of it. So It's a little bit of extra work, but worth it. We cannot retarget video ad views yet. Wouldn't it be great if we could say, anyone who's watched more than 50% of my video, add them to an audience and show retargeting ads? We can't do that yet. Hopefully LinkedIn comes out with that in the future. Okay, when someone comes to me to talk about social advertising, I like to use this acronym called AMMO. It's like bring your ammo, your ammunition. Of course, my acronym is missing an M, so it's not perfect, but you can think about it, bringing your ammo to any sort of social advertising. That stands for your audience, your message, and your offer. Your audience is the targeting, so we're going to go into targeting because that's, quite frankly, one of the most beautiful parts about LinkedIn ads is the targeting. The message is how your ad shows up. So I just showed you all three of the ad units that you have access to, and some of the best practices there, like using images with contrast and colors. If you contrast against LinkedIn's blues, whites, and grays, you're in a good spot. Keeping your characters under about 50 characters for the intro of a sponsored content. Those are the kind of tricks you can use there to keep your message on point. But by far the most important thing is the offer. Because when someone is on LinkedIn, they're not surfing around with their wallet open. They're not looking for vendors to hire and interact with. They're there to learn, to connect, and to have conversations. So if you put an ad out there that just says, here, click on this link and talk to our sales team, no one is going to want to click that link. And so you're going to end up with a really low click-through rate, really low relevancy score, and eventually your ads are just going to shut off. It's not a sustainable strategy. So what do we do here in B2B to get people's attention at scale? Well, we give them an offer that is helpful. There are two things I look for in an offer: something that either solves a major pain point for the prospect or satisfies a major curiosity. So we'll go more into offers, but this is basically, think of it as what can you offer to someone to get their attention away from whatever they were already doing on LinkedIn. Okay, so here's the targeting portion. This is the audience of AMMO. We can target people by their job title, by what department they sit in, that they call job function, their level of seniority, whether they're a manager, a director, a VP, a C-level, call that chief, call it CXO, C-suite, whatever you want to call it. You can target them on LinkedIn very easily. What skills they have in their profiles or groups that they're members of. So you can target all these things about the specific professional, him or herself. Then you have the company. So what sort of company are they at? Are they in a high-tech industry? Are they in transportation? Are they in construction? You can specify this. You can also specify specific company sizes. So for instance, if your product is expensive, let's say you're charging $1,000 or more per month for something, you're probably not going to want to show your ads to people with less than 50 employees, because maybe companies with that size don't tend to have the budgets to be able to afford that. Okay, and of course you can target great on education. That's why higher education works so well on LinkedIn ads. We also have the basic demographics, where someone lives, are they male, female, and what age they are. But I think one of my favorite parts about the way that LinkedIn put their targeting together are these combinations and exclusions. The fact that we can keep combining different facets to get more and more specific of an audience, or we can exclude to make sure that we're not spending money on people that are not worth showing ads to, like existing customers or even competitors. So when you're planning your approach, our team actually really likes to create several campaigns targeting seemingly the same person. And I'll give you a quick example here. Let's say you're going after chief marketing officers. Of course, you can go to the job title and you can type in chief marketing officer and hit them in a very precise way. You can also go to job function and do job function of marketing and seniority of a C-level or CXO. And that's going to get you also chief marketing officers. You can also target marketing skills and put a CXO filter on top. And of course, that also leaves you with CMOs. And then finally, you can target either groups where CMOs hang out. Maybe these are CMO-specific groups, or maybe you're targeting just marketing groups and overlaying a CXO seniority on top. So this is 4 separate ways that we could seemingly target exactly the same type of user. which you might be thinking, well, why would you do that? There's so much overlap. Well, the reason why is because LinkedIn doesn't understand everything about everyone. And so anytime that we have something like this where, for instance, job titles, we can type whatever we want in a job title. It's a free-form field, and so LinkedIn doesn't understand all of our job titles. In fact, I would imagine they probably understand less than half. So if you as a marketer say, I know who my job titles are that I want to go after, let me just go and target that. You're going to be targeting a limited audience, and of course many other advertisers are also going after that limited audience because it's so easy, and so competition goes high, and because of that, you can see this expense here. I have $3 signs to show you that it's going to be more expensive. You're probably going to pay 20 to 50 cents more per click for them. It's not a problem because it's so precise, but realize that competition is higher around job titles. Job function is your most broad type of targeting. So when you're using it, just be cognizant of the fact that there's going to be a lot of people in there. It's going to be the cheapest way to target because it's broad, so you'll probably pay quite a bit less for them. And you'll be able to hit a high volume. So if you have a really big budget or you're trying to reach a lot of people, job function's a great way to go. Okay, next, your skills and groups targeting. Skills are pretty broad, groups are pretty precise, but both, they're kind of in the middle for cost. Can be really valuable. We've seen certain types of audiences where groups have more audience than skills, but in general, because each user can have up to 50 skills in their profile, skills are going to be higher volume. You're going to be able to spend more on that audience. Okay. So now we move to the offer. What can you offer to someone to get their attention on you and away from whatever they were doing on LinkedIn? Because LinkedIn is a display type of ad. You can go straight for the kill by sending someone right to a sales page, a trial, or a demo. Those types of really heavy offers where someone goes, whoa, I'm not ready for this yet. I don't know anything about you. I don't know anything about your product. So you can put an ad together like that, but chances are it's going to get a really low click-through rate, and LinkedIn's just going to shut it off, and it's not a sustainable strategy. You could go way to the other end and just show them helpful, interesting content. Maybe send them to your blog, show them an infographic. The challenge with this on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn ads are expensive, I can't make a good case for spending on something that doesn't have a really strong call to action on it. So unless readers of your blog post convert at 5+%, which they usually don't, it's probably not great. But the sweet spot here is to send someone to gated content. This is content that you're saying you're going to get this valuable informational content for free, and in exchange, all we ask for is your email address. And then you're going to be able to use that to follow up with them, to start a conversation, and to start a relationship ultimately. Some of these best pieces of content that we found are things like cheat sheets, checklists, guides, white papers, ebooks, free webinars, free in-person events. Those types of things tend to do really well as offers. So we have two different hurdles that we have to get over, and this is not unique to LinkedIn. This is for every ad platform. But I want to share with you a way how you can go about troubleshooting any ad performance you have. So your first hurdle is you've got to get people to actually click on your ads, because if no one's clicking on them, nothing's happening. You're probably not spending any money, and you're definitely not getting any leads. So number one, you got to make your ads enticing enough to click on. Number two, once you have people clicking on your ads, now you need to get them to start converting. So based on whichever one of these hurdles you're having trouble with, you can kind of turn your cannons on looking to fix it. So for instance, if people aren't clicking on your ads, most likely your ad creative is either not very compelling or your offer isn't compelling. So you can figure out, maybe we try relaunching ads, maybe we try new imagery, try to reword the text a little bit to make it more compelling, and that's how you're going to get people over that first hurdle. The second hurdle is usually a function of your offer and your landing page. So if people aren't converting, it's either the offer was interesting enough to get them to click, but once they're checking it out, they're not convinced that it's worth giving their email address for, or your landing page doesn't look good on mobile, or conversion rates are just generally low on it. And if that's the case, you can fix your landing page by by doing some additional testing or work on it. Or you can go back and say, hey, our offer isn't compelling. Let's write something or create something that is and try that instead. Retargeting on LinkedIn is fantastic. And not using LinkedIn's retargeting specifically because it's pretty weak, but the fact that we can be so specific about who we're showing ads to get them to our landing page means that we can then retarget that traffic and we know exactly who they are. So imagine that my target audience is CMOs at tech companies with more than 500 people in the United States. If I'm driving traffic to my landing page and I can identify that traffic, how cool would it be for me to be able to show ads to people where I know that everyone fits this profile? They're a tech CMO and with at larger companies with more than 500 employees. That means I can create different types of offers as long as they're relevant to the CMO. I know that it's probably going to be a good offer for them. If you come from the background of search retargeting is great too, don't get me wrong, but the only thing that you know about those users is what keyword they typed originally to come to you, and number two, what landing page they went to. That's all you know, and so it's really hard to build a profile around, okay, who is this? Was this a salesperson? Was this a marketer? Was this an operations person? Someone's CFO? You just don't know. But with LinkedIn, you do. So here at the bottom, you can see my recommendation is to retarget all of your LinkedIn traffic through Facebook and Google Ads. You mimic the same logic between the two, and what this does is both of these platforms have very good retargeting technology. They are able to identify the user, not just the cookie. So that means iOS devices like iPads and iPhones are still going to be able to see the ads, they're still going to be included. These are also platforms where people spend a lot of time. If someone is on social, most likely they're on either Facebook or Instagram. So you're going to be able to reach them anytime they're on social with your retargeting ads. Also, if they're basically browsing around the web, Google AdWords owns a lot of sites through their AdSense program, and so if you're showing on the Google Display Network, there's a really good chance you're going to follow them around the web and they're going to see you everywhere they go. LinkedIn does have retargeting, but it's a little bit weak. The cookie duration is low, which means when you stick someone into an audience on LinkedIn, in about 90 days, they disappear. Facebook is twice that. Google is 540 days is the life of their cookie pool. So LinkedIn, it just expires quickly. It's also only cookie-based, which means you pretty much can't retarget anyone who has an iPhone, which is probably half of your traffic, to be honest. And it's not that inexpensive either. It's not like we get a massive discount. It's usually about $4-ish per click. I think the biggest knock against relying solely on LinkedIn's retargeting is that people just don't spend a ton of time on LinkedIn like they do on Facebook or like they do surfing the web. So,
okay,
I'm not saying
participants, online participants who are having any other queries regarding in the session, you can post your questions in the chat box, and then he can clarify if anyone is interested to come on live, so that you can click on raise hand button, and then you can ask for the question in the live session.
About LinkedIn ads.
Wilcox, you can share your mail ID, official mail ID, so that if the online participants, if they have any other queries, they can contact in person with you. Yeah, okay. Thanks. Join us for the conference in the third day of the session. Thank you, Mr. Wilcox.